where you ended yesterday, started talking about the process involved that David employed when there was a decision whether or not to start war. In the case that the Gemara was discussing with invading Amalekis, and so the process was, first he consulted Achitofel, he was the advisor about military matters apparently, and then you consulted the Sanhedrin, represented in the Pasuk by Ben Yehoyada, and then after that there was finally consultation with the Urim V'Tumim, exemplified by Avyasar, who was the Kohen Gadol of the time. So we started talking about the Kreisi Uplesi, and now the Gemara on the third line of Dalan Amud Aleph asks, V'lama nikra shmam Kreisi Uplesi? Why is the breastplate that the Kohen wears, why is it called the Kreisi Uplesi? What does that mean exactly? So Kreisi shekorsim divreim. So first of all, Kreisi is because its words were cut, so to speak. Korsim implies a sharpness, a definition, so its words were clear. If you knew how to interpret it, it gave a very clear message. Pleisi shemuflaim b'divreim. And Pleisi, like a pella, it was wondrous in its words. So it was the clear, wondrous device. That's essentially what the term Kreisi Uplesi means. Okay. And then after that we finished the quotation of the pasuk that we had started with earlier. After you go through the process of consulting Achitofel, then Ben Yehoyada, and then Avyasar, then it says Sar Tzava Lamelech Yoav, and then you go to the general Yoav, say, all right, we're ready to start, let's play ball, and Yoav the general is going to take care of things. Amar Rav Yitzchak Barada ve'Amri La Amar Rav Yitzchak Berei de Rav Idi Maikra. We're now shifting back to the discussion that we had earlier about David HaMelech having an alarm clock to wake him up at Chatzos, that there was a harp that magically started playing. What's a verse that alludes to this idea? So it quotes a pasuk, I believe it's from Tehillim. Yeah, so Ura Kvodi Ura. So David says, my soul, my honor, whatever it is, awaken. Aniva v'chinora ira shachar. With harp and lyre, I will wake up the morning. Meaning, the harp and lyre apparently provides him with the ability to wake up. Meaning, wake up the morning. He rouses the morning, not the morning rouses him. He woke up long before the morning had started. So that's a pasuk that alludes to that idea of David HaMelech's alarm clock. Okay. Now we're going back to a conversation that we mentioned earlier. On the previous Amud we talked about how Moshe did not know the exact time of Chatzos. That's why he said Kichatzos halayla when he was talking about Makas Bechoros. Presumably he was talking to Paro. That's the context you seem to get from the Psukim. But now we're going to give a number of other answers as to why Moshe said Kachatzos. So Rabbi Ezra said Moshe la'olam havayada. Moshe always knew how to determine Chatzos. V'David nami havayada. David also knew. He didn't need an alarm clock really. But given to David havayada, and since David knew when Chatzos was kinor lamalei, why did he need a harp, a magical harp to wake him up? To indicate Chatzos? So the answer is Mishnaseh, to actually wake him up from his slumber. You might know how to calculate Chatzos, but it's a whole other ballgame to actually be able to wake up for it. So that's why he needed the harp to do so. But given the Moshe Havayada, and since Moshe knew when Chatzos was, Lama Leila Mimar Kachatzos. If Moshe knew when Chatzos was, why when describing Makas Bechoros before it happens, does he feel the need to say, like around the Chatzos is when this is going to happen? So Moshe Kasavar Shemiyitu Atztagnine Paro. Moshe was concerned that perhaps the astrologers of Paro would err in determining when Chatzos was. But Yomeru Moshe Badai, when they're going to say Moshe, he was a big liar. He said that Makas Bechoros would happen on Chatzos. Their clocks were a little bit off, so they're going to think, it was off by a few minutes or so, and then they're going to say Moshe was a big liar. Rav David Orlovsky, he's a teacher for Aish, for Sameach, he teaches in a lot of girls' seminaries. He has a hilarious shir about this Indian. You imagine what Rav Zera is thinking. Just imagine the scene. You have Moshe's enemies, the astrologers of Paro, looking at their watches, so to speak. So 3, 2, 1, nobody's dying. 5 seconds later, everybody starts dying. Moshe, that guy was off by a good 5 seconds. What a moron! It indicates the level of investment that when you have an agenda, how much you ignore the facts on the ground.
First Jewish time.
What?
First Jewish time, a few minutes late.
But they would have thought Moshe's a liar. They would have, even when there were people dying left and right. There were 9 Makos before. It's very clear that Moshe was right. That Hashem is definitely on the Jews' side. But by being off for a few 5 seconds, that's what they grapple onto. We wonder how how the enemies of the Jews in today's world, how they ignore the clear signs that we're not the source of all the world's problems. The answer is, when you have an agenda, you'll find any fact that you can to latch onto to try to justify your cause.
How about the shul when the mini doesn't start exactly the time? Everybody attacked.
Yeah. Some things don't change.
They can't wait 10 seconds.
You have an agenda.
Okay. The Amar Mar, because the master said, Limei Lishoneich Lamar Ini Yodea. And it's similar to a statement that we have in Derech Zuta, that a person should always accustom himself to say, I don't know. People ask you a question, never respond with a degree of being so positive that leaves no room for error. Say, I don't know, I'm not sure. Because maybe you'll actually, in fact, have said a non-truth. You would have accidentally slipped up, and then people will grab you. People will jump on you and they'll attack you for whatever non-truth you said. So similarly, Moshe, he wanted to just say kachatzos to cover his bases, and then nobody could accuse him of being a liar, of being wrong.
Doing that from B'nai Slavcha, right? From B'nai Slavcha, they learned that you should say you don't know.
I mean, there are also, in certain situations where you mamish don't know, and then for sure you should say niyodea. But even in situations where you feel somewhat confident of an answer, you should try to say, I'm not super positive, but I think, etc. That way you're not.
Mila b'chavish, sometimes not saying.
Right. So Ravashi says a different answer as to why Moshe said kachatzos. Bepalga orta the tleisar nage arbesar havakoi. The context in which Moshe said this kachatzos halayla makas bechoros is going to happen. It was at midnight of the night of the 14th of Nisan. In between the 13th and the 14th, but it was calendarically it was the 14th of Nisan already. That's when Moshe said this. V'haki kamar Moshe liYisrael, and this is what Moshe was saying to the audience who was Jewish, not Paro. I'm not really sure how you could work this out, because if you look in the Psukim, it seems very clear. The narration then goes on to say, and your servants are going to die, etc. But somehow Ravashi seems to think that this verse, at least, is addressing the Jewish people. It was at midnight the previous night, and he was saying, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God told me, Moshe is telling the Jewish people, L'makar kachatzos halayla. Tomorrow, like midnight, like the time that I'm telling you, that I'm speaking to you right now, ki ha'idna, just like now, ani yotzei b'sof Mitzrayim, that God said, I am going to go out within Egypt, and I'm going to create makas bechoros. So,
not two, but for the benefit of.
Maybe
Led Israel is not two, but for the benefit of. So they would hear what happened. They would be able to plan accordingly.
Perhaps any indication about that?
No, there's nothing.
So, a good thought for sure. That Moshe was saying, and then kachatzos halayla doesn't mean around midnight, but it means like the midnight tonight that I'm telling you the speech right now. The midnight tomorrow night, the same. This following event is going to happen. Okay, so those are two answers that interpret kachatzos halayla in a way that Moshe actually knew when chatzos was, but still he employed this term for other reasons. Okay, so now we're going to analyze another discussion of David HaMelech in Tehillim, where we talked earlier about his sleep patterns. So we're going to talk more about David HaMelech. The David Shamar Nashi Ki Chasidani. So this is the beginning of Perek Pei Vav in Tehillim. David says to Hashem, guard my soul, protect me, because I'm a pious guy. It sounds very haughty. We're going to get into why that is not haughty later. But first, let's analyze what exactly was David praising himself for. So Levi v'Rav Yitzchak, there's two different approaches to what David HaMelech was saying. Levi and Rav Yitzchak, we're not sure who said what. Chad Amar, one of them said, Kach Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that David said in front of Hashem the following, Ribbono shel olam, Master of the universe, Lo chasidoni, am I not pious? I'm a great guy. Shekol malchei mizrach u'marav, yeshenim ad shalosh shaos. As we mentioned earlier, right, the kings, well, why is it still considered Uv Kumecha, 3 hours into the day? Because the rest of the kings of the world, they get up as late as 3 hours into the day. Va'ani, but I, David HaMelech, I'm much better than them. Chatzos laila akum lahodos lach. I get up in the middle of the night to praise you, and therefore I'm a chassid. I'm better than the rest of the kings of the world. V'idach, and the other approach between Levi and Rav Yitzchak, whoever said the first one, now the other says the following: Kach Amar David lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David says in front of God the following: Ribbono shel olam, Master of the universe, Lo chasidoni, am I not a pious guy? Shekol malchei mizrach u'marav yoshim agudos bechvodam. The rest of the kings of the world, they get together in their groups. They have their social parties. They go to their country clubs, whatever it is. V'ani yadai meluchlachloch badam u'v'shvir u'v'shalya. My hands, however, are dirtied. I'm busy with blood, with embryos, with placentas, various things that a person has to look at to paskin the shilas. Kedei l'taher isha labayla, in order to allow a woman to her husband. So David was a posek apparently. So he's saying, listen, I'm a chassid. Other kings of the world are involved in lofty, honorable things. I get down and dirty, and I help the people even with such matters. V'lo od. Not only that, ela kol ma she'ani osa ani, everything that I did, all the psakim that I gave, ani nimlach b'Mephibosheth Rebbe. I would always consult afterwards with Mephibosheth, my own Rebbe, v'omer lo, and I would tell him, Mephibosheth Rebbe, Mephibosheth, my rabbi, yafedanti, did I rule properly? Yafet kiyavti, did I obligate people? When I said that she was usher, did I do that properly? Yafet zachisi, was I zoche? When I gave a woman a heter, did I do it well? Yafet taharti, did I purify this person properly? Yafet tamesi, did I declare a person tamei properly? V'lo boshti, and I wasn't embarrassed. Right? Imagine a king consulting a rav, a person of a very high authority. It might not necessarily be of his kavod, fit of his kavod to consult somebody else for an answer, but he nevertheless did it. And we're going to see that there was also other aspects of busha involved. Rav Yehoshua Berei the Ravidi. Rav Yehoshua said as follows: Maikra. Well, what is the meaning of the following verse? V'adabru be'edosecha nege malachim v'lo evosh. Oh, actually, sorry, not Micro. What is the meaning of the following verse? But the following verse alludes to this idea of David consulting Mephibosheth or getting involved in more mundane or non-kingly matters. I'll speak in front of all of the kings of the world concerning your statutes, and I won't be embarrassed. The Mesilas Yesharim takes us in the direction of saying that other people that get involved in Sicha B'Telin, that the kings of the world, they talk about, the various, fancy, luxurious hanaos that they have. And David, nevertheless, when he goes to these conferences, whatever it was, I imagine he would start telling Divrei Torah, and he wasn't embarrassed of the fact that everybody would look at him. He was like he's some crazy guy. He said, listen, this is serious, this is what life is all about, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Okay. Ta'ana. We have a Tana that teaches the following. Lo Mephibosheth Shemo. Mephibosheth was not the actual name of David's Rebbe. Ela Ish Bosheth Shemo. His name was actually man of Bosheth. That has a more, I guess, simple meaning. It's just the name. I don't think there's too much to read into it. But why did we instead call him Mephibosheth? He would embarrass David in matters of law. Right? It wasn't just when David consulted. Sometimes Mephibosheth would apparently make a fool out of David. And because David nevertheless consulted Mephibosheth, he wanted to get to the emes. By the way, I forgot to mention. So Mephibosheth, how does that indicate that term? From the mouth, mipi. Bosheth. From his mouth came embarrassment. He would denigrate David by showing how misguided he was in certain halachos.
If he made a mistake.
Obviously, if he made a mistake only.
He told him that's what. Yeah. He didn't make a fool of it.
Well, we'll see. It sounds like the language is very strong. It sounds like they were talking in very sharp terms, and they actually said, "You fool! You learned the sugi that way. It's supposed to be learned this way." And it was actually a little bit of an embarrassment. So, V'lama nikra shemam. I already said that. Lepikach zaka David v'yatsa mimenu kilav. Because of that, because David nevertheless he took that embarrassment for the name of Torah, right? Considering even more so how embarrassing it must have been, considering his role as king. So he merited to have a son named Kilav. Kilav was actually one of the four on our short list of men who never sinned. He was a pretty good guy. For Rav Yochanan says concerning Kilav, Lo Kilav Shemo, Kilav was not his actual name. Although there's a pasuk in Tanakh, I think in Divrei Hayamim, that seems to call him that. Ela Daniel Shemo. And another place in Tanakh he's called Daniel, and that's his real name. But Lama Nikra Shemo Kilav. Why is he called Kilav though? Shaya Machlin Pnei Mephibosheth B'Halacha. Because Kilav can be a contraction of Kalima, like to embarrass Av, the Gadol Hador, let's say. So he would embarrass in turn Mephibosheth in matters of halacha. He was a tremendous Talmud Chacham. V'alav Amar Shlomo. Concerning Kilav, his stepbrother, he would say the following verse, Shlomo HaMelech. This is in Mishlei. B'chachmas Shlomo said the following with his wisdom: B'ni im chacham libecha yismach libi gam oni. My son, if you are wise, my heart will also rejoice in you. And so this is like paraphrasing perhaps what David HaMelech was thinking. Like, I withstood embarrassment from from my Rebbe Mephibosheth. If my son defends my psakim, if he shows that I'm actually correct, and he embarrasses in turn my Rebbe, so I get some kind of hana out of that. There's some kind of scholarly competition here. It's an interesting concept. Ve'omer, in another verse that seems to indicate this is in Tehillim. These are David's own words. Chacham b'ni, my son, you're wise. V'samach libi v'ashiva chorfei davar. I will, my heart will rejoice in you because you will return words to my disgracers, to Mephibosheth, that you have answers for my mahalchim. That gives me great pride. Okay. So David, through withstanding this criticism, merited to have a son who actually would defend his psakim later on. Now back to our original statement. David said, God, please protect me because I'm a very pious Jew. And did David really think of himself as pious? We're not really taking this from a gaiva perspective, but more from a contradiction in verses, because we say v'hachsiv, but there's another pasuk that says Lulei amati los betuv Hashem be'eretz chayim. Right, this is in the David Hashem Ori. We're going to start saying this soon in Elul. So David would say, had I not believed Lulei, had I not believed in getting Olam Haba, I would have despaired. My enemies would have destroyed me. Sounds like David HaMelech is not so sure he's getting into Olam Haba. V'tana mishmei de Rabbi Yossi, and furthermore, Rabbi Yossi describes within that pasuk, Lama nikud alulei. There are dots if you have a klaf version of Tehillim. There are dots like you have over certain words in Chumash. You have dots over the word lulei, specifically over the lamed aleph, right, over the word lo. So why are there dots over there? So Rabbi Yossi says, Amar David lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David said in front of God, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Muvtach ani b'cha. I am trusting in you. Shata mashalim skartov latzadikim v'asid lavo. I know you reward the righteousness in the world to come, in the future. Aval ini yodeya im yesh li chelek b'nei imlav. I don't know if I'm actually going to have a portion in the lot of tzaddikim or not. So it sounds like from this drasha that Rabbi Yossi gave that David wasn't so sure that he was a pious guy. So how do we say earlier that David says, "Oh God, protect me because I'm such a chassid"? So we answer Shema Yigram Achet. Perhaps Chet would cancel it out. It would cause David to lose his share in Olam Haba. At the moment when David said this, he was a righteous guy. But he was still not sure that he would get Olam Haba later on because he could do certain averos that would ruin his entire chelik in Olam Haba. So that was what he was afraid of.
This is after Bashem or before?
I'm not sure. It could be before or after. Either way, David is concerned either Chatam from before or Chatam that potentially exists in the future. His Yetzer Hara is not dead yet. So he's concerned that maybe he'll lose his chelik in Olam Haba for having sinned. And then Rav Yaakov Bar Idi, this will be in line with the Rav Yaakov Bar Idi says, the Rav Yaakov Bar Idi Rami. Rav Yaakov Bar Idi brings the following contradiction in Psukim. Rami is very similar to Raminhu. We're going to give you a shaila from a source of equal authority. Rami is usually used to indicate a contradiction from two Psukim. So we're going to bring two Psukim and show that they don't seem to be indicating the same idea, but we're going to show how they actually they don't contradict each other. So Ksiv, it says in one pasuk, this is Hashem speaking to Yaakov before Yaakov goes on his journey to Haran, the whole dream about the ladder, and God tells Yaakov, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to guard you wherever you go. Uchsiv, you have another pasuk that says, Vayira Yaakov Ma'od. This is before Yaakov goes to consult, before he goes to meet up with Esav. Yaakov was very afraid. So what? He doesn't trust in Hashem. Hashem said he was going to be protected, and now he's all afraid. What's going on? So Amar Hashem Yigram Achet. So if Yaakov Bar Idi was matariates the psukim, yeah, he knows that God made this promise, but that might have been contingent on Yaakov serving Hashem correctly, and he was concerned that maybe through some minor mistake he may have made in the past, that he would have lost that protection, and that's why he's afraid. Kedetanya, another brisa that indicates this idea of Shema Yigram Hachet, Adi Avraham Macha Hashem, Adi Avraham Zu Kanisa. Right, this is from Az Yashir. Until your nation passes passes the one that you've acquired. This repetition of the phrase. So the Gemara explains, Adi Avraham Macha Hashem, until your nation passes God. Zu Bia Rishona. This is referring to the first Geula, when Klal Yisrael went into Israel for the first time, the beginnings of the first Temple period era. Adi Avraham Zu Kanisa. And the second part of this verse, until your nation passes, the nation that you've acquired, Zu Bia Shliya, that's referring to the second Geula, the second Aliyah, so to speak, of Ezra HaSofer. Mikan Amru Chachamim. And from this verse, the Chachamim said, "Ru'uyim hayu Yisrael le'asas lahem gam b'mei Ezra keder shena'aseh lahem b'mei Yehoshua ben Nun." You should have had of the same miraculous nature. The Geula that Ezra had, similar to the Geula that Yehoshua ben Nun had. Yehoshua had a lot of miracles, the splitting of the Yarden, a lot of miraculous conquests of the cities in Israel. You should have had the same phenomena exist with Ezra HaSofer's Aliyah. But why didn't you? Despite the fact that these psukim seem to juxtapose the two geulos, they didn't actually play out in the same exact way. Ela shegaram hachet. This was an example of where hate actually did cause lesser fortune. And in Ezra's door, because there were sins, the people did not merit to have the same miraculous geula like they had in Yehoshua ben Nun's time.
Rashi said they still have to ask permission from the kings what they're allowed to do.
Right. That's another thing. That there was the second Geula didn't truly have independence, right? Sovereignty. They were still in many ways subject to Persia and to Koresh. But Chachamim Omrim. So now back to our halachic discussion. So the Chachamim said in the Mishnah, when's the latest time you can say Shema? You can say it up until Chatzos. And as we discussed earlier on Daf Beis, this is a shir where we're trying to discuss what exactly qualifies as the time of Uveshoch B'cha, right? When you go to lie down. That's what really determines when you could say Shema. So there's discussion of how do you define Beshoch B'cha. So Rashi explains as follows: Chachamim command Sfira Lahu. The Chachamim, who do they hold like that? They say Chatzos. Ik Rabbi Eliezer Sfira Lahu. If they hold like Rabbi Eliezer, who said earlier, the latest time you have is until the end of the first watch, right? The first Ashmura. Limruk Rabbi Eliezer. Why don't they say the exact sheet of Rabbi Eliezer? Rashi explains that Rabbi Eliezer's sheet is coming from the perspective of Uveshoch B'cha. When you go to lie down, the range that you have to say Kriya Shema is the range of time that people in the world start to go to sleep, right? So from Tzeisak Kochavim until the end of the first Ashmura, that's considered normal time for people to go to bed, and that's Rabbi Eliezer Shita. The Chachamim didn't seem to hold that way. If they held like Rabbi Gamliel, who holds that B'Shoch B'cha should be defined as the entirety of the night, right? It's not just the time that people go to lie down, but also the time that people go to lie down, and included in that is also the entire time that people are lying down. Yeah. So you have the entire nighttime. So if they held like Rabbi Gamliel, Limruk Rabbi Gamliel, they should have said the same thing. So the answer is, I think we talked about this already when we talked about the Mishnah on the first day. L'olam Rabbi Gamliel Sfir Lahu. They held like Rabbi Gamliel. They held you had the whole night. That's how they interpret B'Shoch B'cha on a D'Oraisa level. B'Hadika Amrei Ad Chatzos, the fact that they said until Chatzos and not the whole night, Kedei Laharchik Esa Adam Min Ha'Avera. It was to distance people from Averos. This was the din d'Rabbanan that you had to say Kriya Shema by Chatzos. Kedatanya, we have a brisa that says as follows: Chachamim Asu Sayag L'Devrayim. Sages enact fences to protect your words. So that you don't have the following situation. A guy comes from a long day of work, he comes back from the field, it's close to nighttime, and he says, I'm going to go home, I'm going to have a little bit to eat, a little bit to drink, I'll sleep a little, I'll wake up at some point in the middle of the night, and then I'm going to get up and say Kriya Shema and daven. What's going to happen though? Sleep is going to grab him. He'll end up sleeping the entire night. He won't wake up at the time that he had planned, and therefore he's going to miss even the din d'Oraisa of when he had to say Kriya Shema. However, rather, instead have a person come home from work at night. He has a shorter time frame. He's not going to go into all the behaviors that were described before. Instead, he has to daven Marav. He has to say Kriya Shema soon. He's going to go to shul after work. If he's accustomed to reading from Mikra, from reading Tanakh, so that's what he'll do while he's waiting for Marav to start. If he learns halachos, if he learns Gemara, Mishnah, so then if that's what he's accustomed to, if that's what he knows how to do, so he should do that. But Kori Kriya Shema Mispalo. When Marav time comes, he'll say Kriya Shema, he'll daven, va'ochel pita u'mavarich. Then, only after that, he'll go home, he'll eat bread, he'll have dinner, and then he'll say Berachas Hamazon. And that's a much better structure for how his day should work. It'll protect his ability to say Kriya Shema at the right time, and moreover, he'll get some learning in apparently. V'chola over al divrei chachamim chayav misa. Anytime somebody violates the words of the rabbis, like we have in this Mishnah, the Chatzos deadline, so you're chayav misa. Sounds pretty strong. The Gemara says, "Ma'ishna b'chol dufta de lo katani."
If Krishna comes already, you allowed to sit down and learn when you come to shul? If it's ready.
We're talking about where they're describing when Kriya Shema time has not come yet.
Right, so you have time to kill till the time comes. That's what I'm saying.
Something that's very important, by the way, to know. La halacha, when you have any of these mitzvahs that require you to not engage in certain activities before doing a certain mitzvah, we know it more famously by, let's say, b'dikas chametz. Havdalah is one of them also. B'dikas chametz, Ner Chanukah, things like that, where the Rabbanan made a din. You can't engage in any other activities for the half hour prior to this mitzvah because we don't want you to lose it. That applies to Kriya Shema too. We don't seem to live that way. Why? Rav Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva. He says if part of your evening routine is such that you go home. But you know to come back from Mincha Marav, whatever it is, at a set time, so then a person can assume that routine is going to make sure that he actually does this mitzvah, and then he could eat, he could engage in all sorts of other activities. It doesn't help you, Rabbi Moshe's heter, which is itself a big chiddush. It doesn't help you for when you have a variable Mincha Marav time, which we do. We work around Shkia. It's not part of a routine necessarily. Every week is different. You have to work around your various activities. Another important kula that you have to know is that if you have somebody to remind you to do these mitzvahs, then you can engage in other activities, and this is in our modern day a very big help. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says you set an alarm. You have a phone, you set an alarm, whatever it is, to remind you to do something that allows you to engage in other activities. We don't necessarily do this. We probably should. If you're going to come home and eat dinner, let's say these days Mincha Marav is very late, it might be wise to set an alarm before you engage in any other activities. To remind yourself, you got to go down Mincha Marav. You have to go engage in certain mitzvahs de'oraisa. So that's a big deal.
You have a 9:45 minyan, so that's good enough
to
do something. It's a set time.
So if you go to the 9:45 minyan, big kviyas, right? That's your routine. Then that's good. And Mincha is also a mitzvah that we need to make sure we don't engage in certain activities for also. So if you have a set Mincha, also great. But if not, it's really important to make sure you set up in some way a system of reminders for yourself every day to daven. Okay. So, Maishna b'chol dukta lo katani chayav misa. Why is it that in all other situations we're talking about dinei derabanan, we don't use such strong language of chayav misa if you don't follow this recommendation? Umaishna dehaka de katani chayav misa. But here we got very intense. We said if you don't keep this year, you're chayav misa. You're obligated for debt. So iba is ema mishum deika one shena. One could say either because sleep is a very tempting thing, and it's something that's in some ways uncontrollable. You go to sleep and you plan on waking up later on in the night. You might have the best intentions in the world. Sleep isn't one of those things you can just turn off. Right. So it required a special amount of chizuk to say chayav misa. Really be careful about this because don't think you're going to get out of it. And if you want, I can tell you a different answer. In this whole section that we described, the proper behavior of the night, we weren't just talking about Kriya Shema, we were also talking about Marav, that a person should have a Marav. And the strong lotion that we gave was to reject an approach to Marav which exists, which we're going to analyze, I think, later on in the Masechta. That Marav, according to some, was optional. Right? So to exclude that opinion, you have to perhaps use more forceful words when it actually comes from a somewhat legitimate source. That Marav is optional. We wanted to show Marav is a chiyuv, and therefore to push home that point, we gave a very strong terminology. It's important to realize that no matter how you slice it, this is an exaggeration. You're not actually chayav misa if you don't do these things, but in any event, there was a certain push that Chazal gave us to make sure that we treated this mitzvah with proper respect. By the way, we paskin lahalacha, Marav is rishus. Marav is optional, so to speak, but the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, he says it's optional. The Klal Yisrael has accepted it from the sense of a very important minhag that has a status of a neder, that we daven Marav. So technically, the rishus approach is correct, but nevertheless, we daven Marav all the time. Okay. Amar Mar, the master said, we quoted this brisa just earlier, Kriya Shema u'mispalo, that in the ideal nighttime routine that we just described, you say Kriya Shema and then you daven. Misagei alei Rabbi Yochanan. This is a support to Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar of Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan said as follows: Eza ben Olam Haba, who's a son of Olam Haba, somebody that's going to go to heaven in the world to come. Zeh hasomich ul tefillah shal arvis. This is somebody that has what we call smichas kul ul tefillah. He says Kriya Shema and it's brachos, and then immediately from there, without interruption, he goes and daven Shmona Esrei at Marav as well. Everybody agrees that we do this at Shachris in the morning. Whether we do it at night is actually a machlokas. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omer, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, however, says differently. He says, Tfilos be'emtza tiknum. The tfilos were meant to be in the middle. You're supposed to have a Shmona Esrei sandwich through your day. You have Kriya Shema in the morning, 3 Shmona Esrei Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv. After the Ma'ariv Shmona Esrei, according to Rabbi Yehoshua, is when you say the evening Kriya Shema. The Maika Miflagi. So what's the machlokas? We brought a brisa that supports Rabbi Yochanan Shita, and I think that is how we paskin, at least in the ideal situation, right? Ma'ariv, we say Kriya Shema first, and then Shmona Esrei. What is their machlokas? So Iba is Ema Kra, Iba is Ema Svara. You could say the machlokas is based either on how to read a certain verse, or it could be simply in svara, in logic. So Iba is Ema Svara. Here's how the machlokas could apply in logic. The Rabbi Yochanan Savar, Gula Me Orta Nami Have. Rabbi Yochanan, who felt that you should do smichas geula tefillah, he felt that the geula in some ways occurred in the evening of the 15th of Nisan as well. In some ways, there were obviously major events that took place when we had our original geula that evening. We didn't actually leave at that point, but there was makas bechoros. Paro actually said at that point, "Get out, leave," right? So el geula ma'al yasa lo havi ala ad safra. It happens to be the shpitz, the real geula, where we actually left Egypt. So that occurred in the morning, but there was something significant that happened that night. That geula is something that we should emphasize in the evening. It sounds like, from this discussion, by the way, that this idea of smichas geula tefillah, attaching these two, is that the tefillah somehow enhances the geula that we mentioned previously. And because of that, we're saying, listen, if the geula in the evening was significant, that's more of a reason to say, do smichas geula tefillah. Right? You use your Shmona Esrei to enhance the mention of geula at night because it was a major event that evening. Okay. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Savar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who says no, you do Kriya Shema after Shmona Esrei at night. Savar kiven de lo havya ela betzafra, since we actually only left Egypt in the morning. Lo havya geula ma'al yasa. What you had in the evening was not a shpitz geula. There are alternative girsos I have here that actually quotes the Yalkut Shimoni, a language that's perhaps more accurate. Geula me'orta lo have, that there wasn't. It's not considered any geula that in the evening. So that's perhaps the more accurate way of looking at it. Okay. So that was the svara logic. How do you conceptually view what happened in the evening in Mitzrayim? Is that considered a geula or not? So ways of looking at it. But I could give you another approach of kra, of how to learn a certain pasuk, like we mentioned earlier. This is another way of viewing the machlokas. And they both get it from the same pasuk, but they read it in different ways. The pasuk in Kriya Shema says, when you lie down and when you arise. So there's that juxtaposition. There's the fact that they're put next to each other. Very often we'll have I don't know if you'd call this exactly a hekesh, but it's smichos hamilim. I guess the fact that the words are close to each other will allow you to learn out halachos from one to halachos of the other. So the fact that the lying down Kriya Shema and the rising Kriya Shema are put right next to each other in the pasuk, that seems to indicate that they should share certain qualities. So what qualities should they share? Rabbi Yochanan Savar makish chiva lekima. Rabbi Yochanan says, lying down and getting up, they're connected as follows. Makima Kriya Shema v'achar kach tefillah. Just like your morning Kriya Shema has a tefillah immediately after it, that's something everybody agrees on. Av shchiva nami Kriya Shema v'achar kach tefillah. So Ma'ariv should also have Kriya Shema followed by a Shmona Esrei immediately after. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Savar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, however, who disagrees, he says, Makish chiva lekima, I attach these two terms as follows. Makima Kriya Shema samach lamitaso. In the morning, my Kriya Shema is closer than my tefillah to my bed activity, meaning my arising out of bed in the morning. Similarly, in the evening, Kriya Shema should be closer to when you go to bed. How do you do that? By having it after Shemona Esrei. So that's the machlokas in the psukim. Lahalaka, again, we paskin that you should optimally have Kriya Shema before Shemona Esrei in the evening. Because this is a matter of machlokas, lahalaka, if you come late to a Ma'ariv, whereas if you came late to a chakras and you wouldn't be able to be samech gula tefillah with the minyan because you wouldn't be able to catch up in time, we would say daven b'yechidus and say Kriya Shema first and then Shemona Esrei. And Ma'ariv we would say, since this is a matter of machlokas, I guess we do give some credence to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi's approach. You would come late, so if they're starting Shemona Esrei, start Shemona Esrei with them. Afterwards, say Brechos Kriya Shema with Kriya Shema. Even though it's after Shemona Esrei, okay, the evening inyan of Smichas Gula Tefillah is apparently not as crucial. So
sometimes Marv's too early for the Shema anyway, right? So
that's another issue that all the Rishonim talk about in the beginning of the Masechta. If Kriya Shema is meant to be said at Tzis HaKochavim, we're not doing that. Everybody's saying it before. What we do in shul here is actually usually Marav starts after the Dvar Torah in between Mincha Marav. The later Mincha Marav is it's usually the most mekil shita when Tzeis. You usually make that, so that's important. But anytime you daven at the Plag Minyan, right, you have to make sure you say Kriya Shema in the evening. But it's that itself, according to Rabbeinu Tam, that would also qualify as a proper Kriya Shema. Why? It seems to go against the Gemara before. So okay, there's a long discussion there.
The morning gula is right next to the Shemona Esrei. At night there's a Kaddish in between. There's Baruch Hashem.
We're going to get to that right now. We're going to talk about that right now. Masiv Mar Berei de Ravina. Right? We're going to talk about that right now. Masiv Mar Berei de Ravina. It's like the lashon of Meisvei. I'll ask you a shaila from another source. This is a Mishnah that we're going to have later on in the parak. Be'erev mevarich shtayim lefaneh u'shtayim lachareh. In the evening, we're talking about Kriya Shema in the evening. You have 2 brachos before, 2 brachos after. Right? We have, and that's how we have it in our Ma'ariv. Perhaps we have an additional bracha after Kriya Shema. We're going to talk about that. Now, if you're going to say that I need snichas gula tefillah, halo kasanach gula tefillah, you don't have that at Ma'ariv. The habai lemimar hashkivenu. Right? You end Gal Yisrael in the first bracha after Ma'ariv, but that seems to be your last mention of Geula. Then you talk about Hashkivenu. That's an interruption in between the Geula bracha and Shemona Esrei. What's going on?
Yeah, but we have them next, Baruch Hashem Lo'olam.
Even more than that, right? Even more than that. So, right. So we have to get into that too. Amrei, but apparently in the times of the Gemara, at least you didn't have that. Right? You just had Hashkivenu. So that's why they're asking about these things. Amrei, they would answer back to you, the Rav Yochanan Shita, the Yasmichas Gula Tefillah at Marav, also what's going on with Hashkivenu. Keved Takinu Rabbanon Hashkivenu, since the Rabbanon instituted that you have this bracha, Ke Geula Arichta Damya, that's considered an extension of the Geula bracha from before. Dilote Mahaki, because if you don't say that, you're going to have other problems as well. Shachas Hechi Matzi Samich. In Shachas also you have a problem. You also have an interruption. B'ha Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, B'tchila Omer, you say before you start your Shemona Esrei, Hashem Svasai Tiftach, right? U'fiyagiti Lasecha. U'levasofu Omer, Yularatzon Emrefi. At the end of Shemona Esrei, you say Yularatzon, but that you have that Hashem Svasai Tiftach. That's an interruption in between Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei. Yeah. Hashem Svasai Tiftach is not a part of the bracha of Shemona Esrei. It's really an introduction. Ela Haslam Kevin the Tekino Rabbanon Lamemar Hashem Svasai Tiftach. Rather, what must it be? Once the rabbis institute that you say a certain phrase, in this case, Hashem Svasai Tiftach, Ketzvila Arich Damya, that's viewed as an extension of the Tefillah. That Shemona Esrei really, so to speak, starts at Hashem Svasai Tiftach, even though the first bracha doesn't really start then. And then Hachanami, you'll say the same thing here with Ma'ariv. Kevin the Takinu Rabbanon Lamemar Hashkivenu, since the rabbi said, say the bracha of Hashkivenu after Gal Yisrael, Kegula Arich Damya. That's an extension of the previous bracha of Geula, and therefore you don't have any interruptions. Tosfos says, apparently, sometime in between Chazal and Tosfos, you had this introduction, at least in our Nusach, of Baruch Hashem L'Olam, Amin V'Amin, all these psukim that you have. So, what's going on there? So, Tosfos said, first of all, okay, I'll give the same answer. Whoever instituted this, they apparently had a beard. That's also viewed as a Geula Arichta. Right? That's something that doesn't interrupt. I guess we'd say the same thing for the Kaddish. Something that's very interesting. Tosfos points out the origins of Baruch Hashem L'Olam. The reason why is because people used to daven Ma'ariv in places where it was a little bit more dangerous, and if you were a latecomer and you finished Ma'ariv, apparently it was unthinkable to Tosfos that you would actually hurry up your davening to catch up with everybody else. It's an interesting point. But you would finish your davening later than everyone else, and everybody else would leave. You'd be alone, and it wouldn't be good for you. You would get home, on your way home, you'd get eaten by wolves. I don't know, something like that. So what they did was they instituted these brachos.
Slows the congregation.
That way, it slows everybody else down. It allows you to play catch-up. I asked Rav Shechter once, what exactly is the mechanism of catch-up? Is it that I say Baruch Hashem L'Olam, that there's more to say, and therefore if I'm davening fast, I can catch up more easily, there's more time to catch up? Or is it that Baruch Hashem L'Olam was instituted to be said for anybody that was a non-latecomer? Right? So Shechter said the latter. And therefore, if you come to Ma'ariv late, don't say Baruch Hashem L'Olam. You want to catch up to everybody. Or let's say you get there on time, but the Chazan's going really fast. Don't say Baruch Hashem L'Olam. So finish at Shomer Yisrael La'ad, and then daven Shemona Esrei with everybody else on time.
You'd say later then?
No, don't say later. It's a bracha for people that come on time and that are on pace with the rest of the kehillah. That's it. Okay. We have a lot to do and only 5 minutes to do it, so I'm just going to move. Okay. Okay. I'm Rabbi Elias. I'm Rabbi Avina. Rav Elazar said the name of Rav Avina, Kol Omer Tilo David B'chol Yom. If you say Tilo David, the Perek in Tehillim that we know as Ashrei, that doesn't actually start with Ashrei. Ashrei is more of an introductory pasuk in Psukei de Zimra that we have it for. But if you say Tilo David, which is the real Perek of Tehillim, if you say that 3 times, Shalosh Pamim Muftach Lo Shu Ben Olam Haba, you are certain to be Ben Olam Haba. It's not some magical formula. Obviously, you have to say Ashrei with feeling and actually understand it and take it to heart. But my time, what's the reason why it's such a chashuv Perek in Tehillim that it gets this honor? If you want to tell me it goes in an acrostic, it goes Aleph Beis Gimel Daled Hey. Nema Ashrei Timimei Derech. I'll tell you, there's another Perek in Tehillim you could have said instead. It's Perek Kuf Yud Tes in Tehillim the Asya B'Tananapin. It goes in an acrostic and it has 8 of each letter. Maybe it's even better. El Mishum de Isbei Poseches Yadecha. Rather, it's because this has a very important verse of Poseches Yadecha Maspiach L'Chol Chai Ratzon that talks about how God provides the entire world with its needs. That's a very important idea to take to heart. So. But if that's the answer, Nema Halal Hagadol. You should have said Hashem Kitam Kidol Mchasto, that Perek of Tehillim, the Chsiv Bey, because there you have no Sein Lechem L'Chol Basar. You have the same idea communicated in another pasuk that God gives bread to the entire world. He sustains the entire world. That idea of God keeping the world going, that's there as well. So why not say Halal Hagadol, say Hodul Hashem Kitov 3 times a day, and also you're a Ben Olam Haba. El Mishum de Isbei Tarte. Rather, it's because you have both elements. You have that crucial idea of no Sein Lechem L'Chol Basar, Poseches Yadecha, Maspia L'Chol Chai Ratzon, and it goes in the acrostic. Why is the acrostic important? I think somebody mentioned this on Tisha B'Av, that when you go in that kind of a fashion, you're saying like every single aspect of me, every letter of the Aleph Beis I'm using to praise you, Hashem. There's a certain totality and dedication to God that expresses. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Mipnei ma lo ne'emar nun ba'ashrei." That's not such an acrostic. There's a nun missing. What's going on in Ashrei? There's an allusion with the letter nun to the falling of the enemies of Israel. That's what we call a lashon sagi nahar. It's not what it means. Not really the falling of the enemies of Israel, but chas v'shalom we should actually say the falling of the Jews. So we use a euphemism of the enemies of Israel. Dichsiv, because you have a pasuk that says the following. This is in Amos. Nafla lo tosif kum, that she will fall down. She will not be able to get up afterwards. Besulas Yisrael. The maiden of Israel. So it seems to indicate that there's a falling and a not getting up, and that sounds very gloomy. But, so therefore we wanted to avoid the letter nun. That seems to would indicate, I guess, it would allude to the idea of Amos. So b'ma'arava matartzi lahachi. In the West, in Israel, they answered differently than they answered in Bavel. They said nafla. They read the pasuk in Amos as follows, in a way that is not problematic. Nafla v'lo tosif. She would fall. She will not continue. Kama. Lin Pol Od, this is a paraphrase, she will not continue to fall again. And then, Kama, Kum, B'Solos Yisrael, get up the maiden of Israel, things will look up one day. So Amr and so then the pasuk's not a threat. So why do you get rid of the nun? So Amr of Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, "Afilu hachi chazer David v'samchem beruach hakodesh." Nevertheless, David made sure that in his in Ashrei he wanted to nevertheless address this pasuk because apparently you could have read it in a way that was more gloomy. Shenemar somech Hashem l'chol anoflim. The pasuk that would follow where the nun would be is with the samech, and that talks immediately about Hashem supporting and allowing people to get up, those that fall. Let's do a little bit more. Amr Rav Elazar Bar Avina said, "Gadol Shenemar b'Michal Yosef Shenemar b'Gavriel." The angel Michal, he was greater than the Malach Gavriel. At the Ilu b'Michal, by the way, the reason why this is connected to the previous statement, it's another statement of Rav Elazar Bar Avina, as we just quoted earlier. So why is Michael better than Gavriel? Why is he better? The ilu b'Michal ksiv, concerning Michal, it's written in the pasuk in Yeshaya, Vayaf alai echem min asrafim. Flying up to me was one of these angels. Va'alu gabe Gavriel, by Gavriel ksiv, it says in the pasuk in Daniel, Va'ish Gavriel asher isi b'chazon b'tchila mu'af bi'af. That there was 2 languages of flying. Apparently, Gavriel needed to take a break. He had to fly, stop, and fly again, so he's not as mighty. But now the Gemara says, "My mashma dahai echad Michal." That pasuk you quoted earlier in Yeshaya, that was a reference to Michal. How do you know it was a reference to Michal? It only calls him the echad, the one. So Rav Yochanan says, Asya comes from echad, a gezerah shava. We have the word echad in one place, we have the word echad in another, and we can use it in one context. It's referring to Michal, so it must be referring to Michal in another context also. Ksiv hacha, it says here, the pasuk that we quoted, Vayaf alai echad min asrafim, one of the angels flew up to me. Ksiv hasam, and it says in another pasuk, B'hinei Michal echad min asam harishonim bala azreini. Michal is one of the angels The word one of the angels that came to help me. So Tana, it says Michal ba'achas. Michal flies with one swoop. He's very fast. He's very strong. Gabriel b'shnayim. Gabriel needs two steps. He has to take two flyings. Eliyahu ba'arba. Eliyahu Hanavi needs 4. Malach hamavis b'shmona. The Malach hamavis, he's the weakest. Thank God. He needs 8 flyings. Uvashaya magefa. But during a time of plague, during a time of evil, ba'achas. The Malach hamavis is empowered and he could do it in 1. All right, we'll stop here.